Hello, this is Christina Byron. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be going through this America First GOP Trump platform, the new GOP platform. We talked about it yesterday, particularly we read through the top 20 priorities, but I mean, we mostly talked about the abortion segment, and we talked about how they pushed it through, and I learned more about how they pushed it through since then, but pretty remarkable. But there's good things in here, and there's things that folks are utterly disappointed with, especially myself. But instead of people talking about it, not knowing what it is for ourselves, we're going to go through the whole thing. I did read read some sections, skim through another. So some of these things I'll be looking at kind of with a fresh eye with you. So if I stumble over a word, just please forgive me. But so yeah, that I'm sure that'll probably take up all of our time today. So if that doesn't float your boat, you know, I don't know why I wouldn't float your boat if you're watching political content every day, but that's what we'll be talking about. So before we jump into it, I would encourage you guys to go blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. So stream and run my website support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merchandise that's available at the store, like this My Money, My Business tee. I made this because so many people are like, it's my body, my choice. I'm like, why are you trying to get like taxpayer dollars involved and all this stuff? So, I mean, this can apply to a lot of things, but that's essentially why I made that for, shirt there. And there's other things you guys can look at. I do have different books you guys can check out. Most are fiction. Two are nonfiction. One of those nonfiction books is my book, Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So you guys can check that out as well. And if you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats. I don't know why my air turned off right now because it is still hot in here, but but we will struggle through it together. Okay. I guess you guys will see me struggling. I don't know how warm it is or hot it is or cool it is where you guys are at. By the way, as I set up this platform for us to read together, did you know there's like a trend right now of like British people talking about how hot and terrible it is over in the UK? And I guess with they don't have AC really, and how their windows are built and other stuff, they just don't have it. It's not like really a thing like it is here in the US. And they're like, oh, it's so hot. It's and they're saying it's the worst heat anywhere in the world. And I just don't know how that's possible. Besides how hot it is here in the US, there's hotter places obviously than the US. But there's complaining about like 20 degrees Celsius, which is like I think 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the US, apparently not everywhere, but like I'll have my air like 68 would be kind of cold, like kind of cool for what we keep the house. So we keep it around like, 73, 4, something like that. So we're all like, you guys are dying over the temperature that we put on in our houses to just kind of relax and be cool, and you guys are dying. So I don't know what's up with the British folks, but that's one of my favorite things going on over there. I guess on the social media, I'm just like, that is bananas to me. Anyway, let's hop to it. So this platform, whether you like it or you don't like it, was passed very quickly. They from multiple sources, which I'm not surprised from other stuff I heard before it was voted on. They did not really allow discussion. They did not allow amendments. the media, like not even C-SPAN was allowed to cover it, and they covered it before because actually someone I know ended up sharing a thread the other day of different times they would fight to get different things passed in the with amendments, and so we were able to see this process before, and that's not the case with this. They didn't let people have cell phones, and they just really pushed it through. And so I guess some evangelical leaders are were told, you know, where are your people going to go? Like if you don't like it, kind I guess suck it up. And that was Marco Rubio's sentiment. We played that yesterday. He's like, "Well, I'm not worried about and his question wasn't even directed toward people just voting for someone else or just staying home. It was just like less enthusiasm to go knock doors or whatever. And he said he wasn't worried because what other options do they have? So I think it's quite the game to play. Like I know they're trying to appeal to the middle and be the moderate position for those independents or maybe soft Dems who've had enough with the crazy. Uh, but it is always a gamble depressing your base. And you could say, well, I don't know, for the folks, there's just a lot of debate that I'm seeing from different folks online about all this stuff. And some people are saying like, well, you know, we this isn't our platform. This is what I would want, and I can't get by some of the things. So I'm going to stay home. Folks are like, well, then Biden's going to win. This is too important. And then you can say, well, if it was so important, then why did they do this and tempt all of us to leave? So to me, it's a mess how things went down, and I uh, I wish it was done better. Like if the DNC had done this, I mean, you would have saw dim exit trending like it was when they, gave Bernie Sanders a rough time back in 2016. So, you know, didn't like the process. But anyway, let's get to the actual reading of it. 2024 GOP platform: Make America Great Again. Oh, sorry. That is not what I'm supposed to scroll. I'm supposed to scroll this. Here we go. Dedication to the forgotten men and women of America. This is like 16 pages, FYI. It's taking a minute to load. Sorry, let me go back up. Okay. Okay, preamble. America First. Return to common sense. Our nation's history is filled with the stories of brave men and women who gave everything they had to build America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. Generations of American patriots have summoned the America spirit and strength, determination, and love of country to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. The American people have proven time and time again that we can overcome any obstacle and any force pitted against us. In the early days of the Republic, the founding generation defeated what was then the most powerful empire the world has ever seen. In 20th century America vanquished Nazism and fascism and then triumphed over the Soviet communism after 44 years of the Cold War. But now we are in a nation in serious decline, our future, our identity, and our very way of life under the threat like never before. Today, we must once again call upon the same American spirit that led us to prevail through every challenge of the past if we are going to lead our nation to a brighter future. For decades, our politicians sold out jobs and livelihoods to the highest bidders overseas with unfair trade deals and a blind faith in a siren song of globalism. They insulated themselves from criticism and the consequences of their own bad actions, allowing our borders to be overrun, our cities to be overtaken by crime, our system of justice to be weaponized, and our young people to develop a sense of hopelessness and despair. They rejected our history. They did everything in their power to destroy our country. In 2016, President Donald Trump was elected as an unapologetic champion of the American people. He reignited the American spirit and called us to renew our national pride. His policies spurred historic economic growth, job creation, and a resurgence of the American manufacturing. President Donald Trump and the Republican Party led America out of the pessimism induced by decades of failed leadership, showing us that American people want greatness for our country again. Yet, after nearly 4 years of the Biden administration, America is now rocked by raging inflation, open borders, rampant crime, attacks on our children, and global conflict, chaos, and instability. Like the heroes who built and defended this nation before us, we will never give up. We will restore our nation of, by, and for the people. We will make America great again. We will be a nation based on truth, justice, and common sense. Common sense tells us clearly in President Trump's words that if we don't have a border, we don't have a country. Restoring sensible border security and immigration policy requires many steps, all of which would have been and indeed taken for granted by prior generations as obviously necessary and good. We must secure our southern border by completing the border wall that President Trump started. Hundreds of miles have already been built and work magnificently. The remaining wall construction can be completed quickly, effectively, and inexpensively. We must also vigilantly check those who enter our country by other routes and ensure that no one can enter our country who does not have legal right to do so. We must deport the millions of illegal migrants who Joe Biden has deliberately encouraged to invade our country. We will start by prioritizing most dangerous criminals and working with local police. We must not allow Biden's migrant invasion to alter our country. It must be saved. Under the Trump administration and Republican Congress, it will be defeated immediately. Common sense tells us clearly that if we don't have domestic manufacturing with low inflation, not only will our economy and even our military equipment and supplies be at the mercy of foreign nations, but our towns, communities, and people cannot thrive. The Republican Party must return to its roots as a party of industry, manufacturing, infrastructure, and workers. President Trump's economic policy to end inflation and return manufacturing jobs is not only what the American economy and American workers need right now, it's also what they want right now. Common sense tells us clearly that we must unleash American energy if we want to destroy inflation and rapidly bring down prices, build the greatest economy in history, revive our defense industrial base, fuel emerging industries, and establish the United States as the manufacturing superpower of the world. We will drill, baby, drill, and we will become energy independent and even dominant again. The United States has more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation, and it's not even close. The Republican Party will harness that potential to power our future. Common sense tells us clearly that if we don't have a strong military, we won't be able to defend our interests and we will be at the mercy of hostile nations. The policy of the Republican Party must be to ensure that American military is the strongest and best equipped in the world, and that our government uses that great strength sparingly and only in clear instances where our national interests are threatened. Common sense tells us clearly that the Republican Party must stand for equal treatment for all. Likewise, the Republican Party must ensure that equal application of law to all, regardless of political affiliation or personal beliefs. Recent Democrat-led political persecutions threaten to destroy 250 years of American principle and practice and must be stopped. Everything has sounded really good, I guess, until this point. I'm kind of in my head rolling my eyes a bit because we don't actually think that all human beings deserve equal treatment, but we'll table that till later. America needs a determined Republican leadership at every level of government to address the core threats to our very survival. Our disastrously open border, our weakened economy, crippling restrictions on American energy production, our depleted military, attacks on the American system of justice, and much more. To make clear our commitment, we offer to the American people the 2024 GOP platform to make America great again. It is forward-looking. It is a forward-looking agenda that begins with the following 20 promises that we will accomplish very quickly when we win the White House and Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. So these are promises. To me, this reads a lot like a, I don't know, Trump email. I mean, it doesn't have the spice of a Trump email, but you see all these caps here. Seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. end inflation and make America affordable again, make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far, stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower, large tax cuts for workers, and no tax on tips. We talked about this all this stuff a little bit yesterday, but every the border is popular. Like, do something about the border. That's the top thing Joe Biden has failed at. Um, Mass deportation. If Trump was like his first term and was talking about mass deportation, that would not have been popular. Right now, the people are actually for mass deportation because things are so bad. And there was like a CNN poll, I think I showed you guys one day that they're ready for mass deportation. So Trump has the full like authority with that particular issue. Um, I don't understand why, if it's just tax on tips, if it's bad to tax the income, then why not everybody? I've seen people push back on tax on tips because then they're not taking it out for the Medicaid or whatever. I mean, so the Dems aren't happy about the tax on tips, but they're going around writing on people's checks, when they put out the tips, like no tax on tips. By the way, if you do that, because you're like representing Trump's plan or representing the Republicans, when you go like no tax on tips, vote Trump 2024, make sure you leave a good tip. Make sure you leave a good tip if you do that. Be a good representative of what you're trying to achieve there. Number 7, defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. Prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country, all made in American. All made in America, in the weaponization of the government against the American people, stop the migrant crime epidemic, demolish foreign drug cartels, crush gang violence, and lock up violent offenders, rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again, strengthen and modernize our military, making it without question the strongest, most powerful in the world, keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age, cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costly and burdensome regulations, cut federal funding for any school publishing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and any other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children, keep men out of women's sports, deport pro-Hamas radicals, and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again, secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship, unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success. So those are the promises. In the top 20, there's nothing that was like about like life or whatever, but it sounds like there's a lot of stuff they're going to really prioritize and pushing federally, and feel like they're going to be I know I'm sure some states are going to feel like they're doing too much on a federal level, but overall I think most people agree with that stuff. As far as like Medicaid and Medicare, it's unpopular to talk about cutting that stuff. But they're I mean, when Trump became the nominee in 2016, I was never under the illusion that he was going to be a fiscal conservative. The man pees in golden toilets. But we're talking about tax cuts, which, we're good. We like tax cuts. And, doing more for the military, that's obviously going to blow up that budget there. But the biggest spending that we have are entitlement programs, and nobody wants to touch them because it's not popular. So I'm just letting you know, because I'm sure saying this right now isn't very popular for me to say it, but we do have a problem that we don't really have. It's not really sustainable. Much of the stuff isn't really sustainable. Anyway, when America is united, confident, and committed to our principles, it will never fail. Today and together, with love for our country, faith in our people, and trust in God's good grace, we will make America great again. So we're on page 5. Okay. Hopefully this does not take too long. I'm kind of like, was this a terrible mistake? Will we be here too long? So, table of contents. That's another page gone. Okay. Chapter 1: Defeat inflation and quickly bring down all prices. Our commitment. The Republican Party will reverse the worst inflation crisis in 4 decades that has crushed the middle class, devastated family budgets, and pushed the dream of home ownership out of reach for millions. We will defeat inflation, tackle the cost of living crisis, improve fiscal sanity, restore price stability, and quickly bring down prices. Inflation is a crushing tax on American families. History shows that inflation will not magically disappear while policies remain the same. We commit to unleashing American energy, reining in wasteful spending, cutting excessive regulation, securing our borders, and restoring peace through strength. Together, we will restore prosperity, ensure economic security, and build a brighter future for tomorrow for American workers and their families. Our dedication to these policies will make America stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous than ever before. Unleash American energy. Under President Trump, the U.S. became the number one producer of oil and natural gas in the world. And we will soon be again by lifting restrictions on American energy production and terminating the socialist Green New Deal. Republicans will unleash energy production from all sources, including nuclear, to immediately slash inflation and power American homes, cars, and factories with reliable, abundant, and affordable energy. They're really gonna have to convince the people with that nuclear because I don't know. People hear nuclear, they just get all jumpy about it. I guess for reasons, but rein in wasteful federal spending. Republicans will immediately stabilize the economy by slashing wasteful government spending and promoting economic growth. I hope these cuts and all this stuff is and reining in spending is going to happen. I mean, there's always dumb things. You can just go talk to Rand Paul. He talks about these list of every year. It's Christmas time. There's the not Santa Claus, but there's a thing where you like it's a grievance thing. I can't remember what it's called, Festivus or I don't know. I can't think of what it's called, but he talks about all these things that the government does and wastes money on, and there's definitely always dumb things to cut. Us putting our fingers in affairs around the world, not even just giving people aid so they can like feed their people in their nations, but some of this gender ideology stuff they're trying to spread worldwide. Like we can obviously cut crap like that, and I don't know, dumb research and whatnot. But the biggest thing expenditure are these like social programs that they don't want to cut. So I don't know how much they're going to rein in the spending and how effectively they're going to be able to really cut costs. I mean, we just have to be making kind of like buku money and bringing in all this revenue for the government to really do any kind of dent. Cut costly and burdensome regulations. Republicans will reinstate President Trump's deregulation policies, which saved Americans 11,000 per household, and end Democrats' regulatory onslaught that disproportionately harms low and middle income households. Number 4, stop illegal immigration. Republicans will secure the border, deport illegal aliens, and reverse the Democrats' open borders policies that have driven up the cost of housing, education, and health care for American families. Restore peace through strength. War breeds inflation. When geopolitical stability brings price stability, Republicans will end the global chaos and restore peace through strength, reducing geopolitical risk and lowering commodity prices, which that is true. That is true. I mean, Joe Biden said as much, like, this is the Putin tax a gas hike or whatever. And I'm like, why? Okay. I wouldn't go around saying that because they're just letting Russia know that even without them fighting us, that they have the power to really hurt us. So I just wouldn't, you know, be giving him all this credit because I just think you're like inflating their ego and their power in the situation. But war does cause global instability as far as the markets and money and with stuff going around the world with the trade routes being you know interfered with. All those things interfere with when we go to the store and buy something. So that's an important thing to deal with. Maybe they'll be able to talk about that on the debate stage a bit when they go back at it again, if they go back at it again. I think there's a lot more that Trump could bring to the table with their discussions than what they talked about in that first debate. I guess maybe Trump didn't need to say more because Biden was just imploding, but there's definitely more substantive things that Trump can say in these debates. Um, Chapter 2, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Our commitment, Republicans offer an aggressive plan to stop the open border policies that have opened the floodgates, the tidal wave of illegal aliens, deadly drugs, and migrant crime. We will end the invasion at the southern border, restore law and order, protect American sovereignty, and deliver a safe and prosperous future for all Americans. Number one, secure the border. Republicans will restore every border policy of the Trump administration and halt all releases of illegal aliens into the interior. We will complete the border wall, shift massive portions of federal law enforcement to immigration enforcement, and use advanced technology to monitor and secure the border. We will use all resources needed to stop the invasion, including moving thousands of troops currently stationed overseas to our southern border. We will deploy the U.S. Navy to impose a full fentanyl blockade on the waters of our region. Boarding and inspecting ships to look for fentanyl and fentanyl procures. Before we defend the border of foreign countries, we must first secure the border of our country. So sounds like they're really getting aggressive with that, which is good. I wish that would have been mentioned at the debate. Like there was a section when they talked about the fentanyl crisis. The question was really like, what do you say? Like, what are you going to do to help all these people? It seemed like who were addicted to it. You know, Trump was asked like 3 times and he didn't address the question. But and I guess this what I just read doesn't really answer that question, but just to give up some hope with that. But a lot of people will be on the fentanyl, or maybe they weren't even meaning to take fentanyl, but it was laced with something and then they ended up dying. So there's people who like accidentally are kind of overdosing with this stuff. So it is really a huge problem. Republicans will strengthen ICE, increase penalties for illegal entry and overstay visas. And that's a thing with the overstaying of the visas, because quite a few people come in and they're, they don't check up on them and they're just here. So not everybody who's illegal just, came up through the border. So that's interesting that they mentioned that. And reinstate, remain in Mexico, and other policies that helped reduce illegal immigration by historic lows in President Trump's first term. We will also invoke the Alien Enemies Act to remove all known or suspected gang members, drug dealers, or cartel members from the United States, ending the scourge of illegal alien gang violence once and for all. We will bring back the travel ban and use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately. Number 3, begin largest deportation program in American history. President Trump and Republicans will reverse the Democrats' destructive open borders policies that have allowed criminal gangs and illegal aliens from around the world to roam the United States without consequences. The Republican Party is committed to sending illegal aliens back home and removing those who have violated our laws. This is what's going to be really interesting to see how let's see, Trump gets back in. I told you that this is a popular thing that the American people want right now. When Democrats are crying on TV, or they have different people crying on TV because they're going to be deported by the Trump administration, how are they going to pull at heartstrings when Trump is, has people, I don't know, locked in cages again, as they said before? Are we going to see basically them try to repeat what happened in his first administration when he tried to get tough on the border? Or are people going to be wise enough to say, I've seen the alternative and I've learned my lesson, and whatever stops these people from coming in and raping 12-year-olds for 2 hours, I'm cool with that. Like, will America do that, or will they get played like they did before? Time magazine put a little girl on the cover who was never separated from her mom, and that became like such a figure for that. But another thing they did, they spread these pictures around with these kids in cages, and they weren't even from when Trump was president. They were when Obama was president. So we'll see what happens. Strict vetting, and we'll see if Trump really wants to do it and will do it, because He's not. Well, he'll be a lame duck. So lame ducks do tend to act differently, but he's thinking long term. I don't know if he wants his son to run. I don't know if he has another successor already picked out. But if Trump wins presidency, don't expect his influence to just kind of go anywhere for a while. So they'll be thinking long term. So I don't know how much willy nilly he'll in his mind just do whatever he wants to do, or if he'll be kind of hindered from the press at times or whatnot. Because there was a point of time in his administration when he was pitching amnesty. So if we're all like, oh, mass deportation, I just want to warn you all that there's a chance that doesn't happen. Because he's been squishy at times, so we'll see. Strict vetting: Republicans will use existing federal law to keep foreign Christian hating communists. That's funny. I guess just how they word it: Christian hating communists, Marxists, and socialists out of America. Those who join our country must love our country. We will use extreme vetting to ensure that jihadists and jihadist sympathizers are not admitted. Stop sanctuary cities. Republicans will cut federal funding to sanctuary jurisdictions and release dangerous illegal alien criminals onto our streets. Rather than handing them over to ICE, we will require local cooperation from the federal immigration enforcement. Number 6, ensure our legal immigration system puts American workers first. Republicans will prioritize merit-based immigration, ensuring those admitted to our country contribute positively to our society and economy and never become a drain on public resources. We will end chain migration and put American workers first. Chapter 3, build the greatest economy in history. I see you guys watching live. I mean, you guys are pretty quiet today in the comments. I know obviously you're just listening, but curious what some of you guys think about this stuff. Chapter 3, build the greatest economy in history. Our commitment: American workers are the most productive, talented, and innovative on earth. The only thing holding them back is suffocating policies of the Democrat Party. Our American first economic agenda rests on 5 pillars: slashing regulations, cutting taxes, securing fair trade deals, ensuring reliable and abundant low-cost energy, and championing innovation. Together, we will restore economic prosperity and opportunity for all Americans. Number 1, cut regulations. Republicans will slash regulations that stifle jobs, freedom, innovation, and make everything more expensive. We will implement transparency and common sense in rulemaking. Number 2, make Trump tax cuts permanent and no tax on tips. Republicans will make permanent provisions to the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that doubled the standard deductions, expanded the child tax credit, and spurred economic growth for all Americans. We will eliminate tax on tips for millions of restaurant and hospitality workers and pursue additional tax cuts. I already talked about the tax on tips. I'm be glad if they make that permanent. But people usually they'll implement. I don't know. Sometimes maybe they do temporary stuff because that's all they can to get it passed for like a temporary compromise. But sometimes I got to think they're like, okay, we're going to temporarily do this thing and say, oh, we accomplished this thing. And then when it's about to expire, like, well, you have to vote for us because the thing's going to expire and you don't want your taxes to go up. So glad to hear that they plan to make it permanent. Fair and reciprocal trade deals. Republicans will continue forging American first trade policy as set forth in Chapter 5, standing up to countries that cheat in prioritizing American producers over foreign outsourcers. We will bring our critical supply chains back home. President Trump turned American trade policy around, protecting U.S. producers and renegotiating failed agreements. Reliable and abundant low-cost energy. Republicans will increase energy production across the board, streamline permitting, and end market distorting restrictions on oil, gas, natural gas, and coal. The Republican Party will once again make American energy independent and then energy dominant, lowering energy prices even below the record lows achieving during the Trump's historic first term. Number 5, champion innovation. Republicans will pave the way for future economic greatness by leading the world in emerging industry. Crypto. Republicans will end. Sorry, my computer just blanked out for a second. Republicans will end Democrats' unlawful and un-American crypto crackdown and oppose the creation of the central bank digital currency. We will defend the right to mine Bitcoin, and ensure every American has the right to self-custody of their digital assets and transact free from the government surveillance and control. Artificial intelligence AI, we will repeal Joe Biden's dangerous executive order that hinders AI innovation and imposes radical left-wing ideas on development of this technology. In its place, Republicans support AI development rooted in free speech and human flourishing. You do need to regulate in some regards because the AI is like stealing stuff to make things. Like if someone wants to, like if I wanted to sell my voice to some AI producer or sell, I don't know, my likeness for a company that to make AI or something, then that's different. But just kind of taking art or people's voices and other stuff and creating things, that's where things get really really iffy with this stuff. If you really want to defend like people's property and so on. Expanding freedom, prosperity, and safety in space. Under the Republican leadership, the United States will create a robust manufacturing industry in near Earth orbit, send American astronauts back to the moon and onward to Mars, and enhance partnerships with the rapidly expanding commercial space sector to revolutionize our ability to access, live in, and develop assets in space. Hashtag Elon Musk, probably. I'm surprised there's nothing in there about the farm situation. But a lot of people who are not American buying different properties and farmland and stuff. I don't know what they can do, what they ought to. Well, it's just concerning. So I wonder, I'm sure they'll address it somehow, but we obviously didn't read it. So anyway, chapter 4, but a platform isn't the same as the campaign's actual promises on what they plan to do. This kind of does read like, I mean, essentially, I believe the Trump campaign is the one who like made this and told everybody, here's the thing, now go vote for it. You don't have time, agree with it, send in the loyalist. You guys say yes. And people who had an issue were outnumbered. Like, I'm pretty sure that it was like the Trump folks who like made all this stuff. Chapter 4, bring back the American dream and make it affordable again for families, young people, and everyone. Our commitment, Republicans offer a plan to make American dream affordable again. We commit to reducing housing, education, and healthcare costs while lowering everyday expenses and increasing opportunities. One, housing affordability. To help new home buyers, Republicans will reduce mortgage rates by slashing inflation, open limited portions of federal lands to allow for new home construction, promote home ownership through tax incentives and support for first-time buyers, and cut unnecessary regulations that raise housing costs. Number 2, accessible higher education. To reduce the cost of higher education, Republicans will support the creation of additional, drastically more affordable alternatives to a traditional four-year college degree. 3, affordable healthcare and prescription drug costs are out of control. Republicans will increase transparency, promote choice and competition, and expand access to new affordable healthcare and prescription drug options. We will protect Medicare and ensure seniors receive the care they need without being burdened by excessive costs. Number 4, lower everyday costs. Republicans will reduce regulatory burden, lower energy costs, and promote economic policies that drive down the cost of living and prices for everyday goods and services. Chapter 5, protect American workers and farmers from unfair trade. Maybe they'll see something here. Republican Party stands for Patriot America First economic policy. Republicans offer a robust plan to protect American workers, farmers, and industries from unfair foreign competition. We commit to rebalancing trade, securing strategic independence, and revitalizing manufacturing. We will promote domestic production and ensure national independence is essential goods and services. Together, we will build strong, self-reliant, and prosperous America. Rebalance trade. Our trade deficit in goods has grown to over $1 trillion a year. Republicans will support baseline tariffs on foreign-made goods, pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act, and respond to unfair trading practices. As tariffs on foreign producers goes up, taxes on American workers, families, and businesses can come down. Number two, secure strategic independence from China. Republicans will revoke China's most favored nation status, phase out imports of essential goods, and stop China from buying American real estate and industries. Okay, they did put in there. It's in there. Number three, save the American auto industry. Republicans will revive the U.S. auto industry by reversing harmful regulations, canceling Biden's electric vehicle and other mandates, and uh, preventing the importation of Chinese vehicles. Number four, bring home critical supply chains. Republicans will bring critical supply chains back to the U.S., ensuring national security and economic stability while also creating jobs and raising wages for American workers. Number five, buy American, hire American. Republicans with strengths will strengthen Buy American and Hire American policies, banning companies that outsource jobs from doing business with the federal government. Number six, become the manufacturing superpower by protecting American workers from unfair foreign competition and unleashing American energy. Republicans will restore American manufacturing, creating jobs, wealth, and investment. Oh, we're going through this. We're already on page 12. Chapter 6, protect seniors. Our commitment. President Trump has made absolutely clear that he will not cut one penny from Medicare or Social Security. American citizens work hard for their whole lives, contributing to Social Security and Medicare. These programs are promises to our seniors, ensuring they can live their golden years with dignity. Republicans will protect these vital programs and ensure economic stability. We will work with our great seniors in order to allow them to be active and healthy. We commit to safeguarding the future of our seniors and all American families. So, protecting the Social Security, that's a touchy thing. Like touching entitlements is the stuff that it's the biggest kind of sucker of our budget, and but nobody wants to touch all that stuff at all because those are the goodies that people, have in some cases like Social Security paid into, and people don't want to feel gypped. And it's like, well, at what point does someone who expects to retire have to have the age raised, and they have to work longer? And it's just created this cycle. I think it was created with the intention of it never being able to really, be stopped. But I don't know what they're gonna eventually do to rectify the situation, but they just don't want to touch it. Protect Social Security. Social Security is a lifeline for millions of retirees, yet corrupt politicians have robbed Social Security to fund their pet projects. Republicans will restore economic stability to ensure the long-term stability of Social Security. Number two, strengthen Medicare. Republicans will protect Medicare's finances from being financially crushed by the Democrat plan to add tens of millions of new illegal immigrants to the rolls of Medicare. We vow to strengthen Medicare for future generations. Number three, support active and healthy living. Republicans will support increased focus on chronic disease prevention and management, long-term care, and benefit flexibility. We will expand access to primary care and support policies that help seniors remain in their homes and maintain financial security. Number four, protect care and home for the elderly. Republicans will shift resources back to at-home senior care, overturn disincentives that lead to care worker shortages, and support unpaid family caregivers through tax credits and reduced red tape. Number five, protect economic foundations for supporting seniors. Republicans will tackle inflation, unleash American energy, restore economic growth, and secure our border to preserve Social Security and Medicare funding for the next generation and beyond. We will ensure these programs remain solvent long into the future by reversing harmful Democrat policies and unleashing new economic boom. Chapter 7, cultivate great K through 12 schools leading to great jobs and great lives for young people. Our commitment, Republicans offer a plan to cultivate K through 12 schools, ensure safe learning environments free from political meddling, and restore parental rights. We commit to an education system that empowers students, supports families, and promotes American values. Our education system must prepare students for successful lives and well-paying jobs. Number one, great principals and great teachers. Republicans will support schools that focus on excellence and parental rights. We will support ending teacher tenure and adopting merit pay and allowing various public supported educational models. Oh my gosh, people are, I'm sure the unions are screaming. Number two, universal school choice. Republicans believe families should be empowered to choose the best education for their children. We support universal school choice in every state. In America, we will expand 529 education savings accounts and support homeschooling families equally. Oh, these unions are probably screaming. Number three, prepare students for jobs and careers. Republicans will emphasize education to prepare students for great jobs and careers, support project based learning, and schools that offer meaningful work experience. We will expose politicized education models and fund proven career training programs. By the way, before I continue on, I think that if there are states that have begun to pass school choice, and it's been in other states, and it's expanding all the time, because that's an issue that crosses that goes across the aisle, and not so much to like a lot of Democrat politicians, because they're beholden to the unions and their folks who don't necessarily want that. But there's a lot of parents that are like, yeah, I would totally love to have financial options. If you would give me some of that share of the money, I'm going to make the best decision for my child. And so if they I don't know what they can really do to enforce all that down from the federal level. But if they did ballot initiatives, like the Democrats are like, oh, let's do abortion, let's put that on the ballot, that's gonna make these Republicans sweat and they're gonna lose. If we did that, if we flipped it on them and put school choice on the ballot like that, like if we did that in Michigan, they'd be so mad. And we would win. We would win that issue if they did that there. So I think that should be something that folks with a lot more than money than me should start to kind of organize and get around, because that will easily pass. That will easily pass. Number three, prepare students for job careers. Republicans will emphasize education to prepare students for great jobs and careers, supporting project based learning and schools that offer meaningful work experience. We will expose politicized education models and fund proven career training programs for safe and secure drug free schools. Republicans will support overhauling standards on school discipline, advocate for immediate suspension for violent students, and support hardening schools to help keep violence away from our places of learning. It's funny, the Democrats, in some places they just do not, in the ACLU and stuff, they just do not believe in really going hard on people who have been like violent in the school, and they don't want to like prosecute people who raise to that sort of level, because they don't want you know the risk of them going to some kind of a school prison pipeline, and understand that. But they'll overlook really dangerous kids. And when you're in a public school, you have to think about the public, right? You have to think about the safety of the public. You can do what you possibly can to help, reform that person and see what's going on with the family, and see if you can put people on the right path. But they'll be straight up trying to suppress stuff when people's public safety is at risk. Anyway, restore parental rights. Republicans will restore parental rights in education and enforce civil rights laws to stop schools from discriminating on the basis of race. We trust parents. Number six, knowledge and skills, not CRT and gender indoctrination. Republicans will ensure children are taught fundamentals like reading, history, science, and math, not left wing propaganda. We will defund schools that engage in inappropriate political indoctrination of our children using federal taxpayer dollars. Number seven, promote love of country with authentic civics education. Republicans will reinstate the 1776 Commission, promote fair and patriotic civics education, and veto efforts to nationalize civics education. We will support schools that teach American founding principles and Western civilization. Number eight, freedom to pray. Republicans will champion the First Amendment right to pray and read the Bible in school, and stand up to those who violate the religious freedoms of American students. Number nine, return education to the states. The United States spends more money per pupil on education than any other country in the world, and yet we are the bottom of every education list in terms of results. We are going to close the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and send it back to the states where it belongs and let the states run our educational systems as it should run. Our great teachers, who are so important to the future well being of our country, will be cherished and protected by the Republican Party so that they can do the job of educating our students that they so dearly want to do. It is our goal to bring education to the United States to the highest level, one that has never attained before. There's a lot of things they want to do educational wise as far as like informing and protecting parents and students and stuff. So it's always fun for Republicans to hear about getting rid of the Department of Education, I guess. But um, would they get rid of it and just make something else and rename it? So I've just got questions. Chapter 8: Bring common sense to government and renew the pillar of American civilization. Our commitment: Republicans offer a plan to renew American civilization with common sense policies that support families, restores law and order, cares for veterans, promotes beauty, and honors American history. We commit to strengthening the foundations of our society for a brighter future. Number one, empower American families. Republicans will promote a culture that values the sanctity of marriage, the blessings of childhood, the foundational role of families, and supports working parents. We will end policies that punish families. Number two, rebuild our cities and restore law and order. Republicans will restore safety in our neighborhoods by replenishing police departments, restoring common sense policing, and protecting officers from frivolous lawsuits. We will stand up to Marxist prosecutors, vigorously defend the right of every American to live in peace, and we will compassionately address homelessness to restore order to our streets. I know we're the party of the pro police and all this stuff. Uh, they could have had some kind of line about I don't know, holding making sure there is accountability or something. I guess I haven't heard a ton of chatter because I was so focused on the inner chatter from Republicans going haywire about all this, particularly the life stuff. I haven't really read a lot of think pieces on um, the dim side of this, but if they were going to pick with something, then I would say they would probably pick with that portion and blow it up out of proportion and try to really kind of scare Black folks, to be frank. Number three, make Washington, D.C. the safest and most beautiful capital city. Republicans will reassert greater federal control over Washington, D.C. to restore law and order of our capital city and ensure federal buildings and monuments are well maintained. It'll be nice if in D.C. people would stop getting carjacked and stuff. Number four, take care of our veterans. Republicans will end luxury housing and taxpayer benefits for illegal immigrants and use those savings to shelter and treat homeless veterans. We will restore Trump administration reforms to expand veterans' health care choices, protect whistleblowers, and hold accountable poorly performing employees, not giving our veterans the care they deserve. By the way, Trump talks about the swamp. There are people who have just been there for a long time in these different departments who plan to outlast whoever comes in, and they will slow up and sabotage folks. So Godspeed to things that he wants to get done. I hope he can, but it's hard to really reform a lot of these places. I'm not saying that he shouldn't do it or shouldn't try, but just want to let people know that a lot of these things are uphill battles just because of how stuff is structured and how long people have been there. Make colleges and universities sane and affordable. Republicans will fire radical left accreditors, drive down tuition costs, restore due process protections, and pursue civil rights cases against schools that discriminate. Combat anti-Semitism. Republicans condemn anti-Semitism and support revoking visas for foreign nationals who support terrorism and jihadism. We will hold accountable those who perpetrate violence against Jewish people. Number 7, overcome the crisis in liberal arts education. Republicans support the restoration of classical liberal arts education. Number 8, restore American beauty. Republicans will promote beauty in public architecture and preserve our national treasures. We will build cherished symbols of our nation and restore genuine conservation efforts. Number 9, honor American history. Republicans celebrate our great American heroes and are proud of the story of America makes everyone free. We will organize a national celebration to mark the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America. Chapter 9, government of, by, and for the people. Our commitment. Republicans will offer a clear, precise, and U.S. oriented plan to stop the radical left Democrats' weaponization of government and its assault on American liberty. We will restore government of, by, and for the people, ensuring accountability, protecting individual liberties, and fixing our once and very corrupt elections. We commit to upholding the Constitution of the United States, appointing judges who respect the rule of law, and defending the rights of Americans to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We will maintain the Supreme Court as it was always meant to be at 9 justices. We will not allow the Democrat Party to increase this number as they would like to by 4, 6, 8, 10, and even 12 justices. We will block them at every turn. Republicans will stop woke and weaponized government. We will hold accountable those who have misused the power of government to unjustly prosecute their political opponents. We will declassify government records, root out wrongdoers, and fire corrupt employees. Number 2, Republicans will dismantle censorship and protect free speech. We will ban the federal government from colluding with anyone to censor a lawful speech, defund institutions engaging in censorship, and hold accountable all bureaucrats involved in illegal censoring. We will protect free speech online. Number 3, Republicans will defend religious liberty. We are the defenders of the First Amendment right to religious liberty. It protects the right not only to worship according to the dictates of conscience, but also to act accordance with those beliefs, not just pieces of worship, but in everyday life. Our ranks include men and women from every faith and tradition, and we respect the right of every American to follow his or her deeply held beliefs. To protect religious liberty, Republicans support a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias that will investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, and persecution against Christians in America. Number 4, Republicans will protect and defend a vote of the people from within the states on the issue of life. We proudly stand for families and life. We believe that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States guarantees that no person can be denied life or liberty without due process, and that the states are therefore free to pass laws protecting those rights after 51 years. Because of us, that power has been given to the states, and to vote in the vote of the people, we will oppose late-term abortions while supporting mothers and policies that advance prenatal care, access to birth control, and IVF fertility treatments. So that's what really has a lot of folks upset. That portion, which, it's not an uber long platform. We're almost done with it, but they barely had any time to look through it, and folks didn't like this amendment. So the pro-life people are upset, evangelicals are upset. Usually there are different subcommittees that will come in and they'll debate, and they said they'll come back like it's not like an instant, like, you guys got to do this now kind of process. They really pushed it through without any opportunities for any kind of amendments. And there was chatter before that they were going to try to ram this through, and they weren't going to allow any kind of transparency to the process. So the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment was mentioned in the other platforms. It's been like a 40-year tradition that the Republican goal was to end abortion. Like, Trump's going around saying like, oh, we all wanted it back to the states, etc. I mean, a lot of people have said that, but the actual Republican position is to one day have abortion be banned. That's the position. And banned how? The 14th Amendment that says we all have equal protection, have it apply to the preborn. And now they were saying we needed we want to have a constitutional amendment that recognizes them. I don't really think that you need one. I think if we just decide to acknowledge that they do, or maybe there's a Supreme Court ruling on it or something, and they acknowledge the preborn are persons, then that there that goes. So the how this reads, they mentioned the 14th Amendment. I don't know if they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes, but some of this is kind of incoherent in my opinion. Because they're like, oh, it's a state's rights issue, but if it's a 14th Amendment that says you can't be deprived of life, liberty, pursuit of happy to all that to life or liberty without due process, and they can make rules about that if they want to. It just kind of sounds like the states can follow the Constitution if they'd like to. We wash our hands of it. So that's what it reads like to me. But for folks who are like, oh, it's back to the states, Donald Trump did us a favor with Roe v. Wade being overturned. Just imagine this logic if states wanted to lynch black people or something, and you're like, oh, well, if the states decide that, that's fine. That's not cool. We wouldn't be for that. The only reason to throw your hands up at this, is if you don't actually, I don't know, one, if I guess you just kind of want to give up the issue because you think it's going to be too politically inconvenient, and that's what's going on here with the Trump campaign. Or you just really don't see the unborn as human beings who are endowed by our Creator with the inalienable right to life, and that they are persons who should be protected, and their right to life should be secured by the government. That's why they exist, to secure our liberties. So this saying we oppose late-term abortion, I don't know what that means. I know what that means, but you don't support stopping it. You're not going to do anything to stop it. So, I mean, locally, state Republicans will do things to try to stop late-term abortion from happening. And this isn't the platform, so they can do that stuff there. But as far as what the Trump campaign wants, or to stop late-term on a federal level, they don't believe in touching it. They don't believe in stopping it. So Trump's position, a lot of people can feel however they want to feel. Some people feel like, oh, Roe v. Wade, going back to the states, that's fine as a state's issue or whatever. And some people are like, oh, you're too pro-life, and Trump is pro-life. You're just too radical. And I'm like, you have to. I hate when people say that. I'm like, you have to explain why my position is radical. Don't just throw that out there. Let's discuss this. Let's actually debate the issue. Why my position is that it is wrong to unjustly unalive human beings. They're alive. They wouldn't be growing if they weren't alive. So what's the deal here? I understand there's a conflict of rights between the mother and the child, but if they both can live, they both should live. If you have a counter argument, go at it, but it's hardly a extreme position, right? But what I'm really annoyed with are people still insisting that Donald Trump is the most pro-life president ever. And I'm like, guys, he's not even pro-life. He's not pro-life. I know Roe v. Wade would have never been overturned if not for Trump. Trump didn't write the opinion. He picked 3 names that the Federalist Society gave him. Ted Cruz or anyone else who's a Republican probably would have done the same. So, and maybe you could say maybe they wouldn't pick as well, but he picked from a list. He's not a constitutional scholar. He picked from a list that they gave him. And some choices were good. Some choices are, we have to keep an eye on. They seem a little troubling. But we got the opinion. People act like Alito and Clarence Thomas weren't there. He didn't pick all of them who made the opinion. So he didn't do it all by himself. He's not the only person who would have ever done it. We were incrementally getting to this point eventually. Roe v. Wade wasn't a good ruling. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg knew that. I mean, though she did want abortion, but tucking it inside of a right to privacy when you squint real hard in the 14th Amendment somewhere. That didn't make sense to people. And they had to keep revamping it. Like what we imagined, what Roe v. Wade was a couple years ago was, a mix of other different decisions as well. It wasn't just Roe v. Wade, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, and was another one, something Doe, I think. So it wasn't just Roe v. Wade. So if you say that you support a state's rights to choose abortion, is that pro-life, guys? Because pro-life is, no, this is a life. It needs to be protected. That's what we need to do. Because it kind of gives the, well, I'm personally pro-life, but I'm pro-choice for others vibe, and that's what pro-choice people say all the time. I hear it every day. And the reality of the situation is that Trump, he had said states' rights, but every time a state goes too far in his opinion on protecting life, he shuts them down. He said that heartbeat bills were terrible. And I don't know how much of that was him going at it with Ron DeSantis, but he said heartbeat bills are horrible. Terrible was one of those two words. And that bill in Florida has a ton of exceptions that he says it needs, but he doesn't want any heartbeat bills or doesn't like them. And when Arizona, it was ruled that they could go back to their law on the books that basically bans abortion outside of the life of the mother, Carrie Lake and Donald Trump were flipping out saying, oh, the legislature, you guys have to pass something and allow some exceptions and give people time. And I don't know how many weeks they're advocating for, but they were calling and all kinds of different stuff. I'm like, that is not a pro-life position. Now, I understand that the hard line in the sand is a hard position right now, but if you're in the game of politics and you don't plan to persuade anybody, I don't know what you're doing here. But us rolling back in this kind of way is just going to make it so that this isn't an issue. And Donald Trump said that he wanted to solve it, but I mean not an issue as in we'll just probably just lose the drive to actually protect these children at all. Like someone mentioned, like, I'm so afraid that we're going to go the way of Canada and other places where it just kind of is what it is. Both parties have accepted it because I don't think the Democrats haven't done their platform yet, but the Republican platform is now basically pro-choice. So, especially compared to how it used to be. And I know there are a lot of people, like when I was trying to stop Prop 3 in Michigan, and I was begging to raise money to do ads and other stuff like that. And there was one donor we had called, and he was just like, I don't like abortion, but I just want it to be over. And unfortunately, there was a lot of people on the Republican side who wanted to vote for the amendment. And obviously that's what happened because it, passed. I think a lot of that was, a lack of education. Well, so much of it is a lack of education, including on our side. And I don't think we understand our principles, our morals, our values. And I to be fair, I don't think a lot of people just kind of think about it at all. Someone the other day told me, like, they read my article that I wrote about Taraji P. Henson and that video she did with Kamala Harris. And it was like an open letter to her, just kind of going through the things she believed and was supporting with Kamala Harris that were just awful. And I meant one of the things that I brought up was their stance on abortion. And I mostly talked about how the Democrats were hypocritical with bodily autonomy and other stuff like that. But someone was like, oh, I was with you until you mentioned that topic. And I'm a Trump supporter, but I'm pro-choice. And it's, not really alive or not really a baby or something. And I went back and forth a little bit. And then I wrote a response that wasn't that long. And then they're like, I'm not reading all that. And then I was about to say, well, if you're not reading my comment, I'm just going to block you. But she had posted a second comment after she told me she wasn't reading my comment. And then I read her second comment and she's like, it doesn't even have a heartbeat until 2 months, in the first 2 months. How can people think that? 2 months? That's crazy. That's crazy. I see some of your comments. There was an interesting one that came up. I'm going to address some of these after I finish reading, but I didn't mean to get so distracted on this topic since we talked about it the other day. But there's only one more page after this. Um, but I want to address this interesting comment that someone left. But I think, well, within me, I'm like Joe Biden and Trump. I'm not going to explain it too much here today. I think I've explained it a little bit yesterday. I'll explain more later, but they virtually have the same opinion on abortion. And I would say the difference between Trump and Biden is that Trump, he can get the right people around him that can guide him into a good decision. But from my understanding, for a while he's had some not great people around him that have made some questionable decisions on this road where the scapegoat and the well, they've been blaming the pro-life position for losses, and they've been doing that since the midterms. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to talk about the way that election fraud from 2020 affects anything. We're not going to talk about some of these picks that they had that had no sort of background in politics or business or anything. And it was just, they said that there was fraud. So Trump was like, okay, you're my person for Secretary of State, or you're my Attorney General candidate, or you're for statewide stuff. And like picks like that, we're not going to talk about that. It's those darn pro-lifers. I said this before, if January 6th hadn't happened, like Trump it'd be over. He'd be like 70% or something crazy. Maybe not 70, but like high 50s, maybe in the 60s. Just crazy numbers, probably up double digits. If there wasn't all this other stuff weighing him down. And I find it hard to I guess cope with the fact that so many people are asking me to give up this thing that is an inalienable right that is a human rights violation, and they're saying, we'll just compromise on this. And I'm like, well, you guys couldn't compromise on a lot of things that have put us in a bad spot. So it's really hard for me to swallow my tongue and just be like, okay, we're just going to go along with the program. There are a lot of people going along with the program, though. Susan B. Anthony, because they released, the GOP like released some kind of page with some names signed on it saying that they support the platform. And Susan B. Anthony was one. And they're like, this is a pro-life platform. And Catholic Vote was like, this is a pro-life platform. Trump is a pro-life president. I'm like, why are y'all lying? And so people started arguing with me in the comments and stuff. I'm like, just don't lie. It is what it is. Like, we understand electoral victory, etc. But don't lie to me. Don't lie to your followers. Don't lie to your supporters, the people who trust you. Lila Rose was like, oh, it's from Live Action. She's like, oh, this is disappointing. It's a downgrade, I think she said. I'm like, I'm like, it's not just a downgrade, Lila, it's pro-choice. And Kristen Hawkins was like, well, they mentioned the 14th Amendment. Like, I don't like some things. Two things can be true at the same time, but at least they mentioned the 14th Amendment. I'm like, but they ignored the equal protection. Like, things just don't make sense. It's like maybe they brought it up because they knew that was where the drama was, and they're trying to scapegoat it. But how it's worded, it's definitely not really affirming life. It really affirms the state's choice to choose death, really. And I don't even have enough time to go through this IVF stuff, but IVF is very popular. It's a very controversial conversation to even bring up some of the ethical implications, because so many people have used it to create families that they love. And I sympathize with that. I am also concerned about the amount of embryos that are created and thus destroyed or permanently frozen in the surrogacy industry at large. There's just a lot of ethical issues. I saw I don't someone, a legislator from Montana, who said they were looking more into IVF, and they're like, we at least got to have the CDC pull some numbers about. Hey guys, I am so sorry. My everything just crashed for a second. So sorry about that. But as I was saying, there was a legislator from Montana who said that they needed to at least have CDC look at some numbers for some of this stuff, because a lot of Heritage did a report. I think, according to them, like in the 90 percentile of the embryos created are basically destroyed. So the question is just like, again, we sympathize with people who want to build a family, but the question with some of this stuff is also at what cost as well. And I don't want to get too far into it, that down that rabbit hole today. Um, so I got to pull back up the platform because my everything just crashed and kind of dropped from the. I think everything crashed. I don't think it was a. I don't think my mouse accidentally slipped and exited everything. I think Chrome just quit. So give me a second while I pull this back up and we'll finish reading this stuff. But I wish Republicans wouldn't have really brought the IVF discussion. Like, if they wanted to avoid it, they should have just avoided it. Because we talked a couple weeks ago after the Southern Baptist Association voted against voted to condemn IVF. I'm like, the Republicans all came out and was like, oh, we support IVF. And now there's Christians out here saying like, nah, we can't support it. And now you're at odds with these people. And you're at odds with folks talking about the moral repercussions of this stuff. When if you weren't ready to talk about it, and you're concerned about your electoral stuff, just shut up. Just shut up. Like, you guys are the ones who actually brought it into the forefront. And I know they were so upset about the Mississippi case, but my thing that I kept saying was they just needed to explain what happened in the Supreme Court case in Alabama, because what happened was that these basically a clinic allowed a rando to come in, remove these eggs, drop them, and they killed like sets of 3 different parents' embryos, and they just wanted to sue the clinic for wrongful death of a minor. And the court said, well, yeah, we don't have no reason to exclude an embryo that's not in the womb, because the law doesn't say you have to exclude them, and we have included embryos within this before. And that set the IVF, world in a panic. And we should have been asking, like, okay, if them holding them accountable for something that is clearly their fault is going to make everyone panic, when we need to kind of ask ourselves what's wrong with the IVF industry, and how does it need to be regulated or whatever. So anyway, we're almost done here. You guys are great, civically engaged, sitting here listening to me to just read this whole platform. That's too enlarged. Let me. Okay. Okay. Number 5, Republicans will end left wing gender insanity. We will keep men out of women's sports, ban taxpayer funding for sex change surgeries, and stop taxpayer funded schools from promoting gender transition, reverse Biden's radical rewrite of Title IX education regulations, and restore protections for women's rights. Number 6, Republicans will ensure election integrity. By the way, the only thing I did read like in an article was Republicans are so mean, focusing on the transgender, even though they're like 1%. They don't treat them like they're 1%. They don't treat them like they're 1%. They treat this issue like the whole world has to be under their foot, be brought to heel for their benefit. They make this a forefront issue. If it's just 1% and they're not affecting us this much, so why did we have to have this drama with William Thomas, Leah Thomas, or whatever? Why do we have to go through these things? Why do dudes get to play volleyball with girls and hitting the ball so hard that they, in a woman's face, that they end up having like brain damage? And then Riley Gaines told this story about this guy who injured this female volleyball player, and she was like talking about it and stuff, how unfair it is, and he actually like sent her a text or reached out to her and was like, oh, you can't get me out of your head, huh? And I'm like, what? These people are like predators. Like, who would say that to a female that they injured like that? And y'all want these people in the locker rooms and on these sports teams? These people are mentally unwell, obviously, but you're just exasperating the problem. They don't treat them like they're just 1%. They treat them like they're their idol, man. Anyway. Number 6, Republicans will ensure election integrity. We will implement measures to secure elections, including voter ID, high sophisticated paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and same-day voting. We will not allow the Democrats to give voting rights to illegal aliens. I don't know how much, they're going to try to pass to do stuff federally. I mean, making people who vote in federal elections be able to prove their citizenship just sounds like a no-brainer, but we know that Biden won't do that. They already came out against that bill. But I don't know how much they're going to want to try to implement on a federal level. But the fact that our elections are so diverse makes it hard to steal and hack things. And Obama said that in 2016 when Trump was complaining about it being rigged. I think he meant like people were treating them unfairly, not people were stuffing ballots kind of rigged. But, Obama was kind of laughing, and he's just like, it's, what is he complaining about? He thinks that like they're gonna rig it in Texas, like that's silly. So Obama was like, acknowledged that us having a diverse system as far as our elections helps to keep it secure. Then it's funny that Biden, when they get in office or whatever, they're trying to federalize our elections with different legislation that they keep pushing. So if that makes it less safe, why do they want to push that stuff? So I would just urge Republicans to be careful about how much stuff they want to push federally with this issue. To me, same-day voting makes so much sense. Because we had a big problem in 2020 when so many people had already voted by the third debate. That's obviously not good. Like, you have all this time to persuade the voter until election day, and that's not how it is anymore. So I don't know what realistically they're going to be able to roll back, though. Number 7, Republicans will protect Americans in the territories of Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Americans, Samoa, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Puerto Rico are vital importance to our national security, and we are welcome to their greater participation in all aspects of the political process. Chapter 10, and this is, oh, maybe there's one more page after this. Return to peace through strength. Our commitment keeping American people safe requires a strong America. The Biden administration's weak foreign policy has made us less safe and a laughingstock all over the world. Republican plan is to return peace through strength, rebuilding our military alliances, countering China, defeating terrorism, building an Iron Dome missile defense shield, promoting American values, securing our homeland and border, and reviving our defense industrial base. We will build a military bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Our full commitment to protecting American to America and ensuring a safe and prosperous future for all in the national interest. Republicans will promote a foreign policy centered on the most essential American interests, starting with protecting the American homeland, our people, our borders, our great American flag, our rights under God. To modernize the military, Republicans will ensure the military is the most modern, lethal, and powerful force in the world. We will invest in cutting-edge research and advanced technologies, including an Iron Dome missile defense system defense shield, support our troops with higher pay, and get woke left-wing Democrats fired as soon as possible. 3, strengthen alliances. Republicans will strengthen the alliances by ensuring that our allies must meet their obligations to invest in our common defense and by restoring peace to Europe. And we will stand with Israel and seek peace in the Middle East. We will rebuild our alliance network in the region to ensure a future of peace, stability, and prosperity. Likewise, we will champion strong, sovereign, and independent nations in the Indo-Pacific, thriving in peace and common commerce with others for strengthening the economic, military, and diplomatic capabilities. Republicans will strengthen economic, military, and diplomatic capabilities to protect the American way of life from influences of countries that stand against us around the world. 5, defend American borders against all odds. President Trump has completed hundreds of miles of wall. He will quickly finish the job, but Republicans will mobilize military personnel and assets necessary to crack down hard on the cartels and traffic drugs and people into our country, revive our industrial base. Something that Ron DeSantis said that I thought was really smart during the primaries, that he said that Trump should have did, that he would do. It's something that I suggested back when Trump was president, was to use the remittance fees, like people sending stuff like overseas, and take some money from that, because part of like other folks' economy is just how much money people send out of America to their families back home. And Ron DeSantis is like, if you do that, you can pay for the wall. So I think that's a good idea. You know, I don't know if Trump's like into it or whatever, but you know, at least think about it, I guess. Number 6, revive our industrial base. Our industrial base is critical to ensuring good jobs for the people, but also reliable production of vital defense platforms and supplies. Our policy must be to revive our industrial base with priority on defense critical industries, equipment, and parts critical to American security must be made in the USA. And 7, protect critical infrastructure. Republicans will use tools of national power to protect our nation's critical infrastructure and industrial base from malicious cyber actors. This will be a national priority. And we will both raise the security standards for our critical systems and networks and defend against bad actors. And that is page 16 of 16. I do think that they need to do something. Our NBCs seem to really like being attacked under Democrats, though. So I'd like to see some strength there, but that's not necessarily put in the platform. Okay, so let's look at some of your comments. Let's see. The Dems are going to for sure turn on Trump when the deportation happens. They will compare him to some ridiculous evil historical figure and run it to prepare for the 2028 candidates. I'm sure that will happen. I'm sure that will happen. But we'll see. It depends how much they really ratchet up. But they're not going to play fair, play ball, and people seeing like the images that of the parents and the children and all that stuff. That was too much like red meat for Democrats. I mean, Ali Stuckey said she knew Christians who voted against Trump for that reason alone, which is crazy to me, because how these people are being abused just coming up here with the cartels and how dangerous it is. We should not encourage this behavior, not just to shield our country from whoever might be coming and the burden it might inflict on our country itself, but actually for these people who are making the dangerous journey. Like, we should not encourage this behavior. So Trump did have a better handle of the border. Someone said, should add a clause that funding be merit-based for schools. How can the inner city schools be the most funded yet the worst performing? We'll see how that works out in the I don't know, when they start dishing out the cash, what kind of strings they put along with it. But I assume, with it being merit based to some degree, if it's a bad school, parents will take their kids and go somewhere else and have the money, and kind of means to the ways to do that. Someone said, I love your commentary. Thank you, Oopsie. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Thank you, Oopsie. Appreciate it. Someone said, you realize we got here because we elected Donald Trump the first time, right? Ethics and morality went out the window. Then do you think they will ever return? That's a tough question. uh so Donald Trump, obviously, there were issues, in 2016, and people were like, oh, all this, he did all this stuff, and he's Hollywood access tape, and divorced 3 times, and he said some terrible things, and we go down a list. But the thing was, okay, well, Hillary is like a guaranteed evil here, and the policies they're going to implement are awful. And at least my thinking back then, 2016, and I have some of Trump's books, read them, and watched Apprentice and just observed for years or whatever. So I felt like I had a good grasp on him and what he might do. But it was a gamble, nobody knew for sure what he would do. So the thing was, Hillary Clinton is a guaranteed evil, and there's, a chance he might do all what we want him to do. So it was, a better bet. And he delivered on some things that made Republicans, conservatives, evangelicals very happy. The souring of that relationship really, I don't think, started until the midterm. And there were folks sounding the alarms about it. I mean, some of the stuff that he said was on national TV during interviews with major networks, like not liking the 6-week bans. I talked about it. If you've been watching the show, I've talked about it a lot. And folks, still chose Trump overwhelmingly in Iowa. Those evangelicals overwhelmingly chose him. And there were too many competitors in the race to really give him a good run. Too many people were emotionally invested in Trump because of so many indictments that came against him. And people felt like they couldn't really turn away from him because they're like, what would that say about me if I abandon him now when they're doing all this to get at him? So there's lots of reasons why, he's back at the nominee spot. And they feel like there is no other option for people, I guess, who have issues, for the evangelicals or pro-life community or whatever, and that's what Rubio basically said. And I guess that's what people were told there. Like, where were your people have nowhere to go? Like, you got to be here because the Democrats are worse. So essentially, they feel like they could get rid of the pro-life stuff in the platform, or get rid of the constitutional amendment or whatever, because they just figured they could get away with it, and people are going to suck it up and still vote for him. So there's a big debate with folks saying, like, do you reward the bad behavior? Do you reward the betrayal? Or can you afford the betrayal? Or can you afford, again, to, in the long term, to accommodate the bad behavior? Because the question is, I mean, this platform is going to be the platform until 2028. It's not binding that everyone has to force the states' rights thing. But the most concerning thing about all this is how Marco Rubio was like, well, our platform should reflect the nominee. And JD Vance, who both these people are his potential VPs, going on TV and saying, I support the Supreme Court's decision to allow access to the abortion pills. So you have these people who say they're Christians and they're pro-life and have advocated for life, and they're flipping it over because they want to be VP, want to be in Trump's good graces or whatever, or folks that are telling them that they have to drop the life issue. Ted Cruz and I can't remember the woman's name is Katie something, when they introduced the IVF legislation that they wanted signed, they were asked like, okay, well, your critics would say, pro that life begins at conception. So does an embryo's life begin at conception? And he dodged that. And he said, I don't know anyone who doesn't agree with IVF. And I'm like, Ted Cruz, you know that life starts at conception. I can pull up tweets of you saying that right now. So I it is disturbing the route that people are going. And I don't know. I guess is my real answer for you, because they're not just thinking about now, they're thinking about the future. And they don't want the abortion issue to hinder them. So they don't want it to be something that is in the forefront. So if you're like, we have to stop 2/3 of all abortions happen with these abortion pills. If you're like, we got to stop this, they're not, I don't see them raising a stink to do anything about it. Or apparently he won't sign it, or claiming he won't do anything. I don't know. In a lot of cases, I guess you just got to pray and not just pray that they do the right thing, but the right people kind of get around him to explain this issue. But as long as they feel, and perhaps they've convinced themselves of this, that it is the pro-life message that is hindering Republicans from victory, they will let the babes be slain. And it's sad. I wish I had a better answer for you. And I just can't go rah and be all like, I don't know. I can't gaslight you guys. I can't lie to you guys. I can't. There's been some answers from different pro-life groups who obviously don't like this. Well, some have just like caved and are sycophants. And because a lot of this stuff is access. People want to go to Mar-a-Lago. People want to get in the right kind of good graces and, be invited to the White House and all kinds of different stuff. So a lot of it is some of it is a grifting game, but and some people don't want to discourage their people from actually voting for him because they don't want Joe Biden to win. But even people who are upset about this stuff, like Lila Rose and Kirsten Hawkins, I didn't like their statement so much. I don't think in the long term, if I was a Democrat, and I know we're going really long now, we're over an hour and a half, but if I were a Democrat, I would fight with the truth. I would fight with the truth. If I were on the debate stage again with Joe Biden, assuming his brain isn't mashed potatoes by then or something, that I would turn and look to Trump and say, I've looked at your party platform and I'm impressed that you guys are now pro-choice, that you believe, in the state's right to choose abortion, if that's what the will of the people decides. And he could say, well, I believe it should just be solely the mother's choice, but you respect the right, for them to choose reproductive freedom. And I would say, our opinions are virtually the same. I would stop trying to fearmonger that Republicans are going to ban your abortion and all that stuff. I would stop doing that. Because only people who would even bother believing him aren't going to vote for Trump anyway. They're the hysterical, I don't know, folks on their side. They're not going to vote for Trump. If this was the one issue stopping people from voting for Trump, like they're not going to believe the crazy stuff Biden says anyway, that are the lies. So the best strategy, I think, for them with this issue, maybe a couple others, is to just be honest about it and to basically tell people there's no daylight between them. Because Trump will say, well, you guys are the monsters because you support late-term abortion, which they'll rebuttal and say, well, we only support that that only happens in really tragic circumstances, which isn't true. But the truth is that Trump's position also allows for late-term abortion. if that's what the state decides. So I would stop lying about the late term abortion thing. I would just let people know, because people like contrast. That's why there's more than one party. That's why there's a different options. So if people are like, oh crap, they're the same on this. Like Ali Stuckey said, she knows folks, Christians, this is the only reason why they vote GOP. And they can be persuaded to vote Democrat on other issues. And you might say, that's crazy. There's a lot of Christians who think it's kind of mean to deport all these people. There's Christians who are really upset about Trump's border policies and the separation from the families and all that stuff. Tons of people broken hearts about that. Many Christians believe in the free healthcare and free college and all that stuff. You can say, well, that's not financially feasible for the country in the long run. They believe in being charitable, but that's not really charity, because they confiscate the money from us and then dish it out, redistribute it. But that's how they're viewing it. And we're not really having the conversation of, hey, that's not really charitable to do things that way, because we don't like to have these long intellectual conversations with folks. So there's doors open to pull people on that side if the Republican Party isn't going to be the party of, hey, it's wrong to kill babies. So that would be my strategy, just to be honest about it. So, Gina, I wish I had better news. Anyway, that's half his cabinet has ended up with charges. Who's going to volunteer the second time around? I don't know. I'm sure he'll have a staff. I don't know how his staff will be compared to kind of how it was after so many people were kind of charged for stuff, and he fired so many people. So it'll be wild. It'll be wild. But anyway, we've talked long enough about this. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. You didn't have to read it yourself. Enjoy that it was read to you. Now we know what was all in it, and they pushed it through. The most problematic thing was definitely the life issue, and that's really hard for me to grapple with. Oh, Kit Kat's here. I didn't know Kit Kat was watching. Hello, Kit Kat. And thank you. She's a great show today. Again, we know what's in there, so I guess we're probably more informed than the most voters, even especially Republican voters. I did not see people on my timeline really talking about this on Facebook. Like Twitter, people are talking about it everywhere, but my friends group, and I'm friends with so many political people, but I searched for this and I did not find people talk about this, complain about this. And I wrote a post about it myself, about the platform changes and stuff. This is before they actually voted on it. It was kind of gearing up. And granted, my page has been really suppressed on Facebook, but I didn't expect anyone to like it. I know a lot of people watch my page and don't say anything on it. They may say stuff to me later like, oh, I love your posts, even though they'll never like it or comment and stuff. But people watch and see if you like something and it's negative about Republicans or Trump or whatever. So I'm sure a lot of more people saw it and maybe had thoughts, but they wouldn't weigh in. I think only one of my friends weighed in. One of my pro-life or Republican friends weighed in. A liberal friend of mine from school weighed in, but I didn't want to have to smoke them on the subject again. Anyway, thank you guys. Have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.